Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Bex here today to do my rendition of the 2022 mid-year book freakout tag. This is a video staple now on BookTube. I'm sure you've seen many of these in your feed over the last few weeks. I've actually only done this video one other time back in 2018 and finally felt the urge to do it again this year. When I was looking back at the video I did in 2018, it seems the questions have morphed a little bit over time, so that's fine. It'll be a little bit of a different video, so stick around if you would like to see my answers. The first question is the best book you've read so far in 2022, and for me that is The Only Plane in the Sky, An Oral History of 9/11 by Garrett M. Graff. I actually listened to this as an audiobook because it has a full cast, and I had heard that that was the way to experience this book, and it absolutely is. I gave it 5 stars. I've read 18 books this year, and this is the best book of that selection because it just took me on such an emotional journey. I mean, everybody knows where they were on 9/11, and so I have my memories of being a 9-year-old and what that looked like for me, but to hear from people who were around the country but also in the different locations where the planes went down, the government, and hearing a full cast read out kind of what they had told the interviewer, that was really moving. There were some spots where it was, I had goosebumps. They had used the actual recordings, like audio recordings from some of the planes. So that was really intense. The book as a whole was incredible. Question 2 is the best sequel you've read so far in 2022, and that is The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. Let me tell you, I did not expect this to be as good as it was. I sort of struggled to get through my reread of the first book, and that was back a while ago, like December 2019, and it took me until this year to finally get to this book because it was just okay, but this one was so much better. I liked seeing the different worlds. I liked the introduction of Will as a character and all the different points of view that we were following. It just really worked for me. It is the shortest book in the series, but it was definitely better than the first one. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Question 3 is a new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. And I chose Sex and the Single Woman, 24 Writers Reimagine Helen Gurley Brown's cult classic, edited by Eliza Smith and Haley Swanson. This is based off of Sex and the Single Girl, which was a book that was published in 1962, and that was a hit at the time. It sold millions of copies. I believe there was a movie that was made off of it as well. I have never read that original text, mostly because I think it would read as very outdated nowadays. So when this popped up as an option, the publisher actually reached out and offered to send me this book, and I said yes, because this is definitely something I would be interested in reading. So we have, as it says here, 24 different writers sort of reflecting on where we are in society today, kind of based off of what Helen Gurley Brown talked about back in 1962. So this is going to cover a lot of different things. It says it's going to talk about interracial dating, celibacy, polyamory, IVF, sex work, and so this is going to be a very broad, modern take, and I just think there's going to be a lot of interesting things in here. Question 4 is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and that is Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. I have read Celeste's first 2 books, and I loved Little Fires Everywhere. So I'm looking forward to this one. However, it's intriguing because it does seem to be literary fiction, but it's got this sort of dystopian edge to it, and so I'm curious to see what she does with that. I don't know too much about it, but I do know that it's about a 12-year-old boy who lives with his father, and his mom left them a few years ago, and I think the book is going to be about him finding his mother again, but in this slightly altered world from what we're used to. Interested to see what she does with that. Number 5 is my biggest disappointment, and yes, okay, I'm sure some of you will be a bit mad. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I actually started reading this book in 2021. And it took me months to finish it because I was just slogging through the middle of this book. There were a few times where I put it down to read other things purposefully, but there were also times where felt like I was almost forcing myself to get through bits of this book. This is a reread for me. When I originally read it, I gave it 4 out of 5. I do think it's more of a 3.5 out of 5. I just found that there were some plot conveniences and certain character portrayals that really didn't work for me this time. I was reading it, what, 12 years later, so I've grown as a person, and I've learned more things, my views have changed slightly, so going back to this book, there were just more things that I had issues with. I always had issues with Rochester as a love interest. That certainly was not the thing that really kind of made this iffy for me this time. It was just other things within the book. I still love Jane's personality. I still loved the descriptions of kind of where they were, the place and setting descriptions. And I really loved the first part of this book where it was Jane in the coming of age part of her story. But once she grew up and actually met Rochester at Thornfield Hall, that's when I just really started to struggle. This is a disappointment in a different way in that it wasn't an anticipated release that I was really looking forward to. I was just hoping that I would like it a bit more during my reread. My biggest surprise was a book that I had to read for the BookTube prize. I read Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford. I had seen this book everywhere, but I had never felt much of a pull to pick it up, so I was sort of forced to read it for my Octafinals group, and I ended up really enjoying it. I was just really impressed by how great the writing was. It was honestly excellent, and it was really hard to read at times just with the content, how frustrated I felt. I really could feel all of her emotions going through the book, and if you have not picked up this book and you're thinking about it, I would definitely recommend that you do. Question 7 is your new favorite author. This could be a debut author or one that's new to you, and this one is new to me, Elizabeth Kolbert. I just read Under a White Sky, The Nature of the Future for the semifinals of the BookTube prize. I can't share my thoughts on that book yet until the round is over at the end of July, but after reading that book, it does make me really want to check out Elizabeth's other popular book, which is The Sixth Extinction, I believe. I just found that her writing, especially science writing, was very engaging, and there are other authors that I've read this year that I love, but they're not new to me, so I feel like she's the one that fits this question best. Then we have the newest fictional crush, which I know is a question that a lot of people don't enjoy. So when I'm thinking about fictional crush, it's not necessarily that you have like a romantic crush on them. It's just that you really enjoy their character, you want to see them appear more in the book, or you would really like to spend time with them. I'm coming at it from more that angle, so I chose Lee from the His Dark Materials series. He appears in the first and second book, but I really loved him in this second book, and anytime he was on the page, I was really excited to read about what he was getting up to. I really don't think I felt that way when I originally read this series. I think I was 9-10 years old when I originally read it, so rereading it as a 29-year-old, I definitely kind of latched on to his character more. And I don't even need to put this book down because the next question is your newest favorite character, and I have to say Will. Who's also from just this book. He was not in the first one, but he shows up in The Subtle Knife. He's a wonderful character. Even though he's on the younger side in this book, he's like 12-ish, but his character I just really enjoyed reading about. I liked the decisions that he made and where he was coming from. I always understood why he was doing what he was doing, and so I really related to him in that way, so that's why he is my new favorite character, even though he's not totally new to me. Number 10 is a book that made you cry. I rarely cry reading books. There will be times where I definitely feel the tears welling up a bit, but rarely do they actually fall. So this is a book that I read and I could feel myself getting a bit choked up. I didn't quite fully cry, and that is American Baby, A Mother, a Child, and the Shadow History of Adoption by Gabrielle Glaser. This is about post-war adoption in America, and Gabrielle focuses on one family specifically while also giving us information about adoptions as a whole at that time. And oh, this book was so moving. Following this one family was absolutely the right choice because you get very connected to them. And so as things are happening, whether they're frustrating or really happy, I could really feel that emotion in me. And when we got to the end of the book, I got really, I could feel myself welling up big time. So this is just a really excellent book. And it will move you. It might not move you quite to tears, but it will move you. Number 11 is The Book That Made You Happy, and I chose Better by Atul Gawande. This was actually the first book that I read in 2022 because I've recently realized that I really enjoy medical nonfiction, so I wanted to start the year off right. That's exactly what Atul Gawande writes. This is the second book that I've read by him. I read Being Mortal, and I now have Complications on my shelves as well because I enjoyed this one so much. But he talks about situations having to do with patients and people that he knows, and he uses it to talk about tough topics around, you know, surgery and medicine in general, but he also uses it to touch on bigger life questions because a lot of these things are life or death. This one specifically looks at making medicine better and improving on what we've done in the past, and it's just so engaging. I get sucked into his stories and I don't want to put the book down, so that's why this one made me happy. Number 12 is The Most Beautiful Book You've Bought or Received This Year. In this case, I received The Secret Lives of Color by Cassius St. Clair, and this one is just incredibly eye-catching. Not only the cover, which has the rainbow here, but the back has the rainbow. The spine is this bright blue color, so it looks really good on my shelves. It really pops. And then also the pages are colored as well. So it's just a really well put together. It's not just the cover that's beautiful, it's the book as a whole. The final question, question 13, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I always do a video at the end of the previous year. So in December 2021, I did a video about 10 books that I want to read in 2022. And I've read some of those, but I still have a good chunk to get through. So the top 3 of the ones that I have left that I really want to read by the end of the year. First one is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I read the first chapter or so of this book last year and could feel myself getting sucked into this story. So I really want to read this one in the fall. I also really need to read Hood Feminism, Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot by Mikki Kendall. This one just keeps calling to me and it just hasn't been the right moment to pick it up. And then the last one that I really want to get to is The Library Book by Susan Orlean. Not only do I really want to read this book, but it's part of the Shelf Sisters series that Les and I do. She picked this one out for me and said, you need to read it. So I doubly need to read this one by the end of the year. That's it. Those are my answers for this tag video that isn't really a tag anymore. Please let me know what books you still really need to get to before the end of the year. And if you have any comments or questions about any of the books I mentioned, you can also leave those in the comments down below. As always, all of our links are in the down bar. You can check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you later.